This episode of Outdoor Journal Radio is brought to you in part by the Invasive Species Centre, protecting Canada's land and water from invasive species. Freedom Cruise Canada, rent the boat, own the memories. JMB Cycle and Marine, your home for all things power sports, boats, and equipment. And Silver Wax, absolute care for everything you drive. It's so nice to be loved. Hey? It's so nice to be loved.
It is.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us again. Angelo Viola, Peter Bowman, and not the usual cast. We just have one member behind the scenes today running everything, and he is literally running everything.
I'll be all
Dean
over the place
Taylor.
today.
Yeah, he's getting his cardio in today, for sure.
Great program today for a number of reasons, not the least of which we have Fish Talk with the Doc. Dr. Cooke. Stephen Cooke will be joining us.
Love it.
Recently, we had an audience member submit a question regarding gobies and the fact that perhaps we're not talking enough. In fact, the question it was more of a statement than anything else because we're applauding gobies as if they weren't an invasive species.
True.
We're applauding them because they've become such an important member of the food chain for our beloved smallmouth bass, especially
Amongst other fish.
Amongst other fish,
Walleye and lake trout are doing it too.
They all eat them.
Yeah.
So we're high-fiving them, but there are some negative things.
It ain't right.
It ain't right. And so he wanted to know what we thought about the fact that recently some studies showed that they could be bringing botulism on the scene. Gobies are transmitting it. How, where, what? So rather than answer that question on that podcast, we decided to bring in Dr. Cooke, who is vastly more qualified to take that on.
Oh, yeah.
So he'll be joining us. But for those of you who don't know, Dr. Cooke, he's a biology professor at Carleton University in Ottawa. He's published over 1,200 peer-reviewed papers. And sometimes we take that a little bit too lightly, how important that is. That's a lot of work, man. He's the chair of the board of technical experts for the Great Lakes Fisheries Commission and a fellow of the Royal Society of Canada. He was recently inducted into the Freshwater Fishing Hall of Fame for contributions to recreational fisheries science. So he knows a thing or two about what we need to be talking about today.
You know it, buddy.
But first, let's talk about this wonderful ensemble that Mr. Bowman is wearing.
Well, thank you, Angelo.
You look absolutely
I picked it out myself, actually.
Stunning.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely stunning in that two-tone
I'd
with the
probably
red.
better if I had a Fishing Canada cap on. It would cap it off perfectly.
And maybe the track pants, the matching track pants.
I don't have the track pants yet. That's something. Maybe I'll ask that for Christmas. Hey,
Christmas
Lisa.
is around the corner. There you go.
Hey?
Anyways, all of this stuff and a whole bunch more, all available on fishingcanada.com or shop.fishingcanada.com, which is directly to the store. And there are some deals going on, and there's some product there that's perfect.
Get Joe to buy something, maybe.
We should.
Yeah, Joe could buy his whole family.
He just walks in and out here like he owns the place.
Well, he does own the place.
Oh,
you know
true.
he owns the place, Joe. It's Joe. Come on. He owns
All right. Fishingcanada.com, the gateway, the portal to your next fishing adventure. Listener feedback, Mr. Bowman.
At Ron Pop 6517 or Poppy, but it's Pop,
I thought that
P-O-P-P-E.
too. That's good.
I'm going to say Ron Pop at 6 via
Look
YouTube.
at that stunning, by the way. Look at that stunning.
What the?
I mean,
Oh my God!
wow. And the fish ain't bad either.
Yeah,
the fish don't
but
look bad.
everything. I mean, you got the mountains, you got the beautiful bush, you got the hillsides, you got Angelo, and you got Esox Lucius. That's pretty damn good.
You can't get any better than that.
No.
Maybe a cigar and a whiskey would.
Hello. That's probably what I had on the other side of the boat. No, I don't drink in the boat. Trust me, I don't drink in the boat. From Ron Pop, I have been watching your show for a couple of years, and I've only seen 3 or 4 from BC, which is one of those right there. Mm-hmm. Most of what I see are from back east. Why is that? I do enjoy your show and learn a lot, but I would love to see more in or on BC.
Can we come clean with that, by the way? I think we have before, but let's come clean again because you happen to be talking to the man who is instrumental in setting up each and every one of the Fishing Canada episodes that you were watching, past, present, and future. So I don't think there's anybody better qualified to answer that question than Mr. Peter Bowman.
Thank you, Angelo. That was quite the intro. I'm not sure what I'm going to say here. But anyways, yeah. So, Ron, and everybody wondering, because I'm sure a lot of people wonder about that.
See, we have the whole country to fish.
We have the whole...
So we could be fishing anywhere we want.
Absolutely.
If it wasn't for what?
If it wasn't for a little assistance in funding because of the expense of what happens here. And before you say, you're all looking for a bunch of freebies, no. There are provinces, et cetera, Ontario being our biggest, that get it, and they pay for these shows. They say, hey, so if we're gonna say yes to all these guys, and then somebody says no, we'll do it anyways for them. No, that's not right. We're not looking for anybody to make us rich at this. We are looking for if they want to, it ain't gonna happen. These tourism people, but. Right. If they can fund us to help, the production of the show, the field production of the show, especially from us traveling to the airport, us traveling to Northwest Territories, for instance, with a crew of 4 or 5 people, whatever, it's very expensive. We can't do that without funding. We cannot do that out of our pockets. It just doesn't work that way. I mean, we got great sponsors like Mercury, like Garmin, et cetera, but we need the Ontario tourism of the world to also come up to the table and push a little bit of money that way too. So it does take a lot of money to do this. And then we get back here, the process we do here, from the logging of footage, is man hours, to the offlining that we do either here or we sub it out to somebody, and then into Joe's office. And that is so much money. I mean, we don't have to get into the dollar figure, but Angela will tell you that is expensive stuff. So it's a very costly endeavor for us as we try to stay, which I think we are, the #1 outdoor or fishing show in the country. To attain that kind of level and keep it, it's a lot of work and effort. So we need some funding with these tourism places. I'll just quickly finish. A lot of times they just say, we don't have the budget. Sorry, guys. We don't have what it takes, and we're not asking for everything. We know they've got budgets and they spend money on sometimes what we think is silly stuff, but that's not up to us. And then we get denied by a lot of provinces. Sorry, guys, just we can't do it. Or we don't have the money for it.
And it's cyclical in that some provinces will sit out a season or 2 or 3 or 4. Some of them will sit out forever. Mm-hmm. Let's be honest. There are provinces that have never supported us from day one. They don't support anything in terms of the fishery.
Yeah.
Because their tourism people are focused on other activities that draw people to their jurisdiction. They don't think that fishermen necessarily will bring dollars to their community. And they're so wrong on that. But we won't get into that part of it.
We've fought it so many times. We've fought it and fought it and fought it.
Because, at the end of the day, it's up to the individual that's making the marketing and media buying decisions.
Yeah.
And
it boils down to that, everybody.
If they're not into fishing...
Yeah, we're euchred. You're euchred for watching. You know what I mean? So if you want to have your BC seen, that person doesn't want it. The answer's right.
We work tirelessly. That's one of the main things that we do here, is try and build relationships with various parts of the country. And by the way, just as an FYI, just so that you know, if we weren't so tied into and so committed to the Fish in Canada brand, which we have now for 40 years, and I'm proud to say that we're probably the only Canadian fishing brand that has stuck to this. We refuse to cheat you, the audience. We refuse, because there's so much money available to us from outside of the country, because other jurisdictions that are into fishing tourism, they value that half hour infomercial, because basically that's what it is. If we're at a place for a half hour show, that half hour show is selling that venue. Whether we do it on camera, whether we do it through graphics, whether we do it, through visuals, it's selling that show. Make no mistake about it. So that's a half hour infomercial. Well, for some reason, sometimes Canadian tourism bodies don't see the value in that, whereas Mexico, South America, Central America, the U.S., they're knocking at our doors to shoot in those venues.
You know what?
And we don't.
Can I put something out here right now? I would love for the YouTube and or podcast listeners and the YouTube viewers, would you be offended if we put a Florida Bass Show on. Just your opinion on it. Say, no, stay in Canada, or guys, you know what? One show a year wouldn't be bad. Just I'd like to hear what they'd say. I have a feeling it's Canada. They'd want us to stick with Canada.
It's the Fish in Canada show.
I know.
Right?
It's just to hear them, hear the opinions. So
anyway, so that's the nuts and bolts of it. And to go along with that, I'd also like to throw out there, we do have some say, obviously. We will, at the end of the day, make sure that we produce a product that you, the audience, can get some pleasure from, whether it's just sitting there watching it and living vicariously through us at those venues, or whether we think that there's a possibility that it's a venue that you might want to go with your family, your friends, or yourself, your fishing buddy, whatever. So we do put some value there too. It's not just about the money, but the money is a starting point. If we cannot get cooperation from a jurisdiction or a venue, then it's not even in the mix, right?
that's right.
The first thing he has to do is look at who is willing to support us. We're doing that right now for the 2027 season coming up. Okay. So who is going to support us? Once we have all of those in place, then we look at the product that we could produce there.
That's right.
And if we think it's what we need and what we should be putting on there, then we make those decisions. So there's nothing magic about it. There's a lot of places we'd like to produce a show that we never have, for the simple reason that we get no support, no love, no nothing from those venues.
That's
so
right.
we just don't do it.
Yeah.
Hopefully we've answered your question, Ron.
We love fishing in BC, just to let you know. And we love shooting in BC.
And it would help, by the way, if you reach out instead of to us, if you reach out to anybody that you know in the industry or like any decision makers at all who might want to support something like this, it would help a lot because...
Oh my
you
God.
and all your buddies and anybody you talk to that wants Fishing Canada there, bring it up to the tourism boards. Find out somewhere you can write to and say, hey, what's going on here?
Hopefully that helped you. Before we get to Conservation Corner, Grass Carp, Invasive Species Centre, I forgot to mention at the very top of this, speaking of money, I just want to throw out there for the first time in I don't know how long, if I haven't mentioned it already, the Fishing Canada boat that we have been shooting with, that you are going to be watching on the 2026 broadcast, our 40th, which premieres, I think, the first Saturday of January 26th.
So, yeah.
Anyways, that Princecraft boat that you see on that show is for sale. We need to, normally they're sold at the beginning of this. This has been a very strange year for a number of factors, and I won't get into them, but the boat is not sold. So perfect opportunity. Normally the boat doesn't get out on the market for sale. It's sold internally.
Yeah.
That didn't happen this year. So an opportunity for somebody to get a great value.
She's a beast. And
Forget the fact that it's the Fishing Canada boat. Forget the fact that it's probably the best equipped fishing vessel on the planet. Forget all that. The value of that, the buyer of that boat is going to have is breathtaking. That's all I can tell you about. Get a hold of us.
It's got more Garmins on it than you can see in one time. You can't see them all.
What else do we need to talk about here? Right, Conservation Corner, Grass Carp. We have an update. Maybe we'll have an update from Dr. Cooke. Who knows? Maybe he knows something about it. We have nothing to tell you on that front other than the fact that, yes, there are fish being spotted and caught, and we're talking grass carp, within Canadian waters, which is concerning because up until a few months ago, our message was quite simple. They haven't invaded us yet, so let's be on the lookout and make sure that we keep the barn door closed. That ship has sailed. There are fish in our system. We don't know exactly how many, but this is where we can really use some help. The Invasive Species Centre can use some help because they need foot soldiers out on the water to try and locate these fish, and who better to employ the services of than Canadian anglers, Ontario anglers in particular, which is where the problem originates. You need to be out there and be vigilant. Keep an eye on these critters. See if you can spot them. Their habitat, their habits in general, and their appearance is all available on the website. And I would suggest that if you haven't already, I know we've been preaching this for a long time now, but if you haven't already gone there, you need to go and arm yourself with all the goodies that they have available. Download the images of the fish, so if you're out in the water and you find them, you can report. Make sure you keep the phone numbers and email addresses and all that stuff, so you can contact them as quickly.
We do
as
not
possibly
want them to turn into the goby problem or the zebra mussel problem or whatever like that. You know what I mean? Invasive species like that. So, and it can happen. So just keep that in mind.
I wonder if there was an invasive species center at the time that the zebra mussel was.
Boy, it's a long time ago, right?
I know.
Or did they become because of the zebra mussels and gobies, right? They might have, because of all this. Good question.
Anyways, go to the invasivecarp.ca website. That's invasivecarp.ca and check it all out. Make sure you know what you're doing. All right. What do we got?
You got the news. Is there a news? Yes, the news.
In the news. And what a great, this is an interesting, because we spend a lot of time obviously out in the field in rural areas, and we see a lot of the devastation that's caused by fires, etc. So the news story this week is brought to you by J&B, your outdoor superstore, J&B Marine and Cycle, Ontario, Canada's, the world's largest Princecraft mercury dealer. That's all I can say about that. Been around since 1972. That doesn't hurt.
Yeah, they've been around for a while.
Give us the news, buddy.
Wildfires. The 2025 wildfire season sees a major spike across Ontario. So last year, with all the traveling we did, remember the amount of fires we saw last year? And we thought, there is no way this is going to be outdone. Well, lo and behold, this year, my God, it is outdone. Those fires burned approximately, the fires this year, there are 643 wildfires in 2025. They burned approximately 597,654 hectares of
Now, this
land.
is Ontario only.
This is Ontario only.
Right? So we don't have the national number. I bet you it'd be
devastating.
Oh, my God.
It was an increase of 163 more fires and over 500,000 additional hectares burned compared to 2024. So that is insane. Those kind of stats are absolutely insane. And we know, I mean, anybody that is in the fire industry, well, we know firefighters from down south, Southern Ontario, that flew up. They had to go up there to fight these fires. They were gone for months at a time, you know what I mean, and stuff like that. So it's an ongoing problem that seems to be getting worse by the year.
Dean, did you compile all of this information?
I did. And the minister, Mike Harris, was involved in this story as well. So if you're on the website, he'll be quoted in there. I guess they're dedicating a lot more next year to this, obviously, in terms of money and equipment.
Wow.
And all
They
that.
pretty much need to, I think, right?
Obviously, this is an area where being proactive would be very, very valuable.
You have to.
Because once the fire starts,
That's
the damage and the losses just grow. If you could be proactive, and I don't know whether that's even possible or not. When you were putting all this together, Dean, is there thoughts towards being a little more proactive next season?
I would like to think so. I mean, it's a weirdly political topic. It'd be interesting to have some people on. I know some people in the industry who could kind of get into a little bit of the politics, but a lot of it is just we haven't been doing prescribed burns very much for a long time. We've been protecting big plots of land, and a lot of invasive species and stuff have been building up. I don't know if there's that much that can be done now that would be, that would appease everybody, like appease communities in that area, appease the forestry companies who own all the lumber. I don't know if there's an answer for it.
How do you be proactive?
That's what I was just going to say.
Like,
this
it's
is going to be one
impossible.
of the most difficult things to be proactive. I mean, you can be proactive in terms of flooding. I can see how that,
Yep.
because there's some history there, and you can build things up. So that in
you
the
know
event
where the
of-
problems are going to be. Here, you don't know where the problem's going to start. Right? That's the lightning.
And essentially, you look at all of Northern Ontario, and it's just like it's a cycle where it's ready to go. It's been ready to go for a long time.
Right.
And where do you start? It's almost like we're in too deep and you got to just manage it when the fires happen.
You have to be reactive.
And Dean, are the majority of these fires natural?
They're mostly caused by lightning, apparently.
Lightning.
I mean, I'm sure it's hard to track.
So how do you, aside from
You can't.
predicting the weather patterns, maybe, and we know how successful that is, but aside from that, how else would you protect yourself from lightning strikes?
You can't. You just cannot
Lightning
do it.
rods? Maybe we start a lightning rod program where we, every mile and a half, we stick in this massive lightning rod. Well, I mean, you laugh at it.
No, I like the idea
It could
of it,
be as
but
simple as that.
I
You
like the
deploy them
idea.
with helicopters, in the thickest of bush. And
So you go up higher than the bush, the highest bush. You could go
and you
another 50
drive
feet
them
higher.
into the ground. And if and when lightning strikes, it's going to strike the
Then
rod.
you get the environmentalists complaining. You're thinking, you can't do that. It looks like shit, and you're hurting the ground and the roots of the trees that you're gonna.
Well, let's just burn it down.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it might not happen, Angelo.
God,
Trust me.
I hate those people.
Oh, do I hate them?
Not if you're one of them. No, we're just kidding.
No.
Maybe we can get Minister or Premier Harris, Minister, not Premier.
wow.
I bet you Ford would have liked that little slip.
Wow, Dougie's gonna get mad at you.
Premier, not Premier.
Premier.
Maybe one day.
The
Who
Premier
knows?
Minister, our Premier Minister.
There you go. Minister Harris maybe can come and shed some light on
Yeah,
that.
that'd be good.
So he owes us a visit.
He does.
Well, he's got
I'm gonna get him
he got
next
some
time.
fishing stuff too. So yeah.
Anyways, great research, great article. It's all available on fishingcanada.com, along with a multitude of other things that this program is way too short and small to be able to tell you about. So just go there, fishingcanada.com. Fan question of the week brought to you by our good friends at fishfindermounts.com.
Yes.
I was just watching.
Were you?
I was previewing one of the episodes that's going up into the schedule for next year's Fishing Canada, 40th season, by the way. And there was this beautiful overhead drone shot of the Princecraft boat. And it looks like a scientific expedition. There's poles sticking out of this thing. Hey, there's electronics and sonars and gadgets on this boat like you have never seen before. That's the boat that's for sale, by the way.
Just in case you're
Just in
wondering.
case you want to know. And all of those wonderful products, I'm talking about the whatever we're using to hang technology off the boat so we could get a better picture of what's going on underneath, are all fishfindermounts.com products. If I only say that is if you're outfitting a boat this winter and you're making some changes and improvements so that you can better utilize your technology, I would strongly suggest, just for fun, go to fishfindermounts.com and have a look at what they have. There.
Well said.
What do we got for fan question?
The fan question is submitted by at Frontier Fishing with Ryan MacD.
Wow.
We've heard of Ryan before. He's been with us before via YouTube.
Okay, so this is a good one.
He does qualify, but he has one in the last 3 months.
Oh.
So this is just a donation.
All right. Thank you very much for donating a question.
Absolutely. And you submit your questions to us at either info@fishingcanada.com or Facebook or Instagram page or now YouTube too. And if you're on YouTube, this is where Angelo's talking about. Angelo and Dean are discussing the fact that a winner versus a non-winner. If it's done via YouTube, you
could
have
win.
a chance
You could win.
to win something nice from Fishing Canada.
Something nice.
When I was growing up in southwestern Ontario, my dad and I used to fish a lot of salmon tournaments. Owen Sound Spectacular, Salmon Spectacular, the Great Ontario Salmon Derby, and so on. Back in the day, the size of the salmon that used to win these tournaments was 40 to 50 pound salmon.
Wow.
Which is true?
No, I have
No?
to stop right
No?
away. We never broke
No,
the
50. Right, yeah.
We never broke it.
40 pluses, though.
49.3 was the largest on record ever.
Yeah, okay. Good correction. Over the last 15 years, we have watched the overall size of the fish winning these tournaments decline. The winner of the 2025 Owen Sound Salmon Spectacular was 25.57. That's not a very big Chinook. It's a nice Chinook, but it's not that big compared to the 40,
But
9.
I mean, it is a big fish, though, eh?
Oh, yes, a great fish. And pull your ass off, too, I'll tell you. What has happened to the state of our salmon fishery in Ontario? Have we as fishermen overfished the big fish? It's concerning and has become a big discussion point amongst our group of diehard salmon fishermen friends.
So first thing I would say, great question, by the way.
Very good
And if we
question.
didn't already have a full dance card with Dr. Cooke that's coming up here in a few moments, we'd probably be well served to drop this on his lap. But I know we've got a ton of stuff for him already.
Boy.
So we'll give you our viewpoint on this for sure, because I was deeply involved in the salmon fishing on the Great Lakes in the early days as well. And you're right, the fish have gotten extreme. It's not even close. And you're stating here that they've dropped by 50% in size. Well, you're probably underestimating that because the average is even lower than that. So our fishing, for a while, not only did they, before the decline of size, what we noticed was the lack of fish. And then all of a sudden, the fish started showing up again, but they were extremely small compared to what we were used to catching. And the bottom line to all of this, twofold actually. First of all, the reason that we started seeing fewer fish is because it's like a shoe store. If you sell your inventory and you don't replenish it, eventually when somebody comes in to buy a size 7 or 10 or 11, you probably don't have it in stock because you didn't bring any into the warehouse in order to sell. And that's exactly what happened to our Great Lakes fishery, because for the most part, these were fish that were being stocked each and every year, both north and south of the border.
Right.
There was a time where we were actually stocking more than the U.S. That was short-lived.
Is that like in the early 70s and stuff like that? Yeah.
70s.
Booming then.
Maybe up to 81, 82,
Right.
we were on par. But then after that, we lost
And that's when the big
appetite.
fish were caught, right?
Yeah,
That's-
yeah. And that's when we lost our appetite to restock, and I'll tell you why. But we saw this huge drop in catches. So it wasn't just big fish missing, but there were no fish to be caught for a number of years. Then we got back into the stocking program, got a little more interested in putting inventory. And the U.S. were continually putting inventory into the Great Lakes. I have to say they never wavered from it because they knew the value of that fishery as a recreational activity. We got a little more political on it and backed off. And the reason
we did?
Yeah, it's hard to
Ontario?
believe.
Yeah.
And the main reason that we're told, because at the end of the day, we can only go by what we are allowed to know. The main reason was because we had exhausted the forage in the Great Lakes, i.e. smelt, alewives, cisco, like anything that these fish were eating. We got so good at stocking that we didn't know that the more fish you put in there, the more food you're going to need for them.
That makes sense.
And so these fish became prolific eaters. They did really good at what they do, and they completely crashed according to what we're told. And it's true because, smelt fishing used to be a pastime for us in our era.
Everywhere.
In the spring. Well, they're good
You
luck
don't
finding
find
one,
them.
right?
Yeah, you can't find
and
them.
that was one of the main food sources. So these salmon ate up their food. Our government at the time made a decision that there's no reason to be continually stocking fish in a system that didn't have the food base to support it. And, maybe that's not a bad thought, but regardless, they just stopped putting fish in and they started spending their time and money in other areas.
Yeah.
And so it went for complete shit until I'm going to say the late 90s, where we started seeing some stocking programs and numbers starting to come up a little bit, never to the level that they were earlier on. But they started, we started seeing a few 100,000 fish sort of being distributed around. And lo and behold, the salmon fishery came back to life. And to the point where I would say probably 7 or 8 years ago, pre-pandemic, and probably through the pandemic, in terms of numbers, we probably had as many fish as we did in the heyday. The problem, though, is we still had the food problem, right?
Yeah.
And so those days of those 40-pound monsters, which look absolutely, they're breathtaking. To see a 40-pound Chinook is breathtaking.
Yeah.
It's the only way I can
For
describe
sure.
it. Well, they don't exist because they just don't get to that point anymore. The food, the fatty, high-protein foods that they used to consume are gone. So will we ever get back to those days where our salmon fish, because the stocking program is ongoing now, but will they ever get enough food to grow to those mammoth sizes? Not unless we start stocking food.
That's really,
I mean, that's the only answer.
Yeah, it's all about bait, right? So here's one. It's funny we're talking about this because I have a group of salmon guys that that's all they want to do is salmon fish. They give me shit for going bass fishing all the time. But this is an interesting point that I did not know, and you might call bullshit on this, but apparently one of these guys had worked with the M&R in the stocking program, and they literally were producing in their stocking. They were producing these best of the best, biggest of the biggest, supersized salmon. So they were literally in the hatcheries saying, no, let's not use these salmon. Let's not use it. They were literally at the heyday. Were producing the best salmon, the biggest
Absolutely.
salmon. And that's what probably one of the reasons why there's not big ones now, because they're not doing that.
They're not.
Because they're just producing salmon.
Just salmon.
Just to get them out there.
And the reason they were producing big salmon is because they were into the recreational and the sport fishing industry. They knew it was a moneymaker.
Absolutely.
So let's put in great quality
Why wouldn't they
stuff.
do that right now?
I have no idea.
You know what? Because no matter how many salmon are out there and how many alewife are out there, the strong will survive. There's going to be some salmon. There are probably 40-pounders out there. They're just not getting caught because there's only 20 of them, let's say, or whatever, in the whole Lake Ontario. I'm just using that as an example. But there are, certain fish in any body of water that are bigger because they're stronger feeders, they're better predators, et cetera, et cetera. So there's still probably some big ones out there, but there's not very many. But if the M&R would go back to that, stocking,
but at the end of the day, they got to eat.
Right.
They have to eat.
That's where they're getting. That's why I'm saying they're getting bigger, because that guy feeds better than the rest of them. If there are some out there that are doing it, they all have to eat. You're right, and there's a limited amount of bait and limited amount of fish. But it'd be nice if the M&R got onto that and said, you know what, yeah, let's build that 45 pounder again.
I've often thought, why not just bring back the food? It's got to be proportionately easier and cheaper to bring back forage. I'm thinking smelt as an example. It's got to be fairly easy to, raise smelt and then start dumping them into the Great Lakes.
You'd think so. Alewife would be, but smelt would be a great one because people will, and then the people could.
I'd go get a feed of smelt. Oh my God!
Get back to that in the spring in those nights. Man, God, that was fun. So,
anyways. We control it. Everything that you're experiencing right now as a salmon fisherman, don't let anybody tell you for 1 minute that, it's just the climate, or, it's a sign of the times, and, it just won't work. No. We built it. We manufactured it. We built it. We nurtured it. We brought it to its peak, and then we lost interest. That's the only way I can put it to you. Somewhere, somehow,
good point.
At the top of that whole industry, interest was redirected somewhere else. I know where, but I'm not going to talk about that on this show. It got redirected somewhere else, and we stopped the business of producing the best salmon fishery on the planet, in my opinion. This episode is brought to you by Sail. Sail is proudly Canadian and stocked with over 100 Canadian brands you know and love.
From rods and reels to sonars to kayaks and every last lure you've seen on the Fishing Canada show, Sail has all the gear to get you on the water.
Drop into one of 12 stores across Ontario and Quebec and talk to the real fishing specialists, or gear up online anytime at sail.ca.
Sail, the ultimate destination for your outdoor adventures.
Hey anglers, want to turn your next catch into a competition? Well, check out Anglers Leaderboard, the new fishing platform that lets you track your catches, join friendly competitions, enter tournaments, and see how you rank against others in your region. Use your phone and the photo measure board to automatically detect length and species. No more guesswork. Whether you're fishing for pleasure or to compete, ALB makes every catch count. What's your ALB score? Well, get Anglers Leaderboard today and start climbing the ranks. Visit anglersleaderboard.com to learn more. All right, a little fish talk with the doc time.
Yes, my favorite time.
Absolutely.
I love this.
Brought to you by Silver Wax, the
my
good
favorite
people
cleaner
from Silver Wax, made here in Canada. And in fact, nobody's ever disputed it, but I think it's the only commercially available wax on the market today that's made here at home.
Oh, really?
I believe so. I mean, when you compare it to the other brands that are on the shelf.
I mean, any other brands, if they aren't Canadian, why would you not buy Canadian? Let's buy
Why
Canadian.
wouldn't they let us know if somebody's listening? Say, hey, no, I use so-and-so, and they're Canadian too. As far as we know, Silver Wax, Canada's only Canadian wax products. They make your job a whole lot easier, whether it's shining up the old girl. No, the boat.
Excuse me?
The boat. Old girl, the boat. Although, probably work on the old girl too.
Hey, honey, I'm going to give you a silver wax. What did you say?
Proudly Canadian and available at most leading retailers, especially the big one.
TBO.
That's the one. That's it. Silver X. Now, Dr. Cooke joins us, as I mentioned at the top of the show. He is a biology professor at Carleton University, has published over 1,200 peer-reviewed
It's got to be higher than that now, doesn't it?
Well,
It's got to be over 1,300
We'll find
now.
out.
It's got to be.
Hello, Stephen. How are you?
Hey, fellas, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Are we
buddy.
at 1,300 yet, Stephen?
Yeah, we're there.
Okay, buddy. We're changing the script. That's it.
Get
Done.
the script
Dino, change
changed.
that.
Stephen, we brought you on for a number of reasons. First of all, we just love having you on the show, but every once in a while we get questions from the audience, and we could bull crap our way through it, but every once in a while they ask a question that just we couldn't do justice to it. We recently received some inquiries about goby, not only as to their viability in the food chain now that they've been here forever, but one of the most important questions was, and we've never discussed it on the show, we've discussed all of their benefits now that they're in the food chain and how they're helping, certainly in case of smallmouth bass in the Great Lakes. Who could deny that
Oh, my God.
they've given them a whole new lease on life? But there's word now that there could be a possibility of botulism that's carried through gobies and how that's affecting birds and that kind of thing. Any input on that?
Yeah, so just remind everybody that we're talking with the round goby, which is from the Ponto-Caspian Sea area over in sort of the far side of Europe, the eastern side of Europe. These are animals that shouldn't be here. They've made their way over in ballast water, were released into the Great Lakes. I think we're coming up on almost 3 decades now. And as you said, they've become common, if not among the most common members of our Great Lakes food webs. And this is the kind of thing where this is why we emphasize so much. Let's try to keep invaders out, because once they're here, they tend to do a really good job of getting a foothold. And you see that. You can go stand on a dock on Lake Huron or Lake Erie or Lake Ontario and look down, and you start to see the substrate moving. The gravel is moving. It's not rocks. Those are all gobies. They can achieve densities of over 1,000 round gobies per square meter on the bottom when they really stack up. So it's
God.
like it's nothing but gobies. That's why the bottom looks like it's moving. So so they have forever changed our Great Lakes ecosystems. They have displaced other native fish, and these aren't, necessarily fish that people know or think of as important. Things like darters, are native goby species, or sorry, I should be sculpin species,
right.
Not goby species, sculpin. And the problem is those are more species means more resilience when bad things happen. So in the future, whether it be a warmer world or a disease outbreak, the more species, the more diversity, the more genes and opportunity for something to make it, something to do well. And in this case, the gobies have basically wiped out most of the other things, so it's just gobies. So you can imagine if in the future gobies mysteriously disappeared, which, there's just nothing to replace them. They've taken over a layer of the food web and displaced everything else. So I always want to start off with gobies are bad for the environment, and anything we can do to prevent them from moving from water body to water body, let's do that. Smallmouth bass get bigger because of them, yes, but that certainly isn't a good enough trade-off to ever want to introduce them anywhere.
Right.
What do they eat,
That's
Stephen? What do they eat? Because the first thing I would think of, that if there's that many in a square meter, like, do they not?
They're eating the hell out of something, aren't they?
Are they not running out of food?
Yeah, they eat invertebrates, so they suck up all the little things that other small-bodied fish or other juvenile game fish would need to eat. So little chironomid worms, midges, caddisfly larvae, things like that. So they'll slurp it all up. They also love fish eggs. They have a particular fondness for bass nest eggs.
How ironic is that? That's the one species that's really doing well with goby.
Right there.
But they're also suffering.
Yeah. You get these big fat females with tons of big eggs that they turn around and then slurp down when they're left in the nest. And the poor dad bass has to work his butt off to try and keep sanity with gobies coming at him from three directions. So,
Stephen, I saw a video not that long ago of gobies eating zebra mussels inside of zebra mussels. Does that happen?
Yes.
Yeah.
They do eat zebra mussels, although they tend to be the smaller ones. And zebra mussels are something else where there's simply so many of them that even with the gobies and their interest in them, it's insufficient. So, and we've never done well with the idea of introducing one invader to deal with another. So the idea that goby are going to be our savior for zebra mussels, it's sadly not the case.
Okay.
Going back to botulism, there's evidence that gobies are part of that pathway. Because they're so abundant, some birds certainly have cued in on them and figured out that they are a reasonable food item. And zebra mussels can be part of that pathway as well. Oftentimes we think of mollusks as being part of that, sort of rearing grounds for botulism, and it sort of gets passed up the food chain. So the upshot is that people tend not to eat gobies, or I don't know anybody that feasts on gobies. And most of the birds that are interacting with gobies and really slurping them up aren't birds that we are eating on a regular basis, unless you have a particular fondness for cormorants, which I don't know. I don't know your palates. Maybe
I've eaten merganser before, and that tastes like absolute shit. So I can't even imagine what a friggin' cormorant tastes like. So it would just be horrible. So,
but we just mentioned some of the game fish, such as smallmouth bass, who. Some people do eat them.
That's right.
Is there a potential danger there?
I haven't heard or read of anything in that space yet. And I should also preface this by saying I'm not a fish disease expert. But I haven't seen any warnings from any of our natural resource management agencies here or elsewhere about concerns of game fish consumption related to botulism these days. So, we tend to cook our food too. That's important as well, right? Where, birds are slurping this stuff down raw. Not only are they have the potential for botulism, but tapeworms and nematodes and all sorts of other nasty things. And we all know better. We know that we need to cook our freshwater fish and cook it properly. All freshwater fish has something that could make us sick in it, and that's why we cook it and prepare it properly.
Yeah. Can the botulism in a cormorant, how does that affect the bird? Does it kill them? Does it it's just there as a sickness, or any idea?
Yeah, my understanding is it makes them ill, which then they get smaller, they become weak. Other diseases or pathogens they have can take over, and so it can be lethal. But oftentimes it's when it's combined with other things, or if it's a species that needs to migrate, they don't have the energy resources to migrate because they've been not feeling so well, and they starve to death or freeze to death because of that.
So, needless to say, this question about botulism, our answer now is going to be yes, but it's not anything that we should be concerned about.
At least for humans at this point, there are some birds that there's a lot of mixed feelings about cormorants. I don't think there's mixed feelings about loons. I think if you don't like loons, you're not a Canadian. And they're an example of another fish-eating bird, and they would have no problem slurping down gobies as well. Ospreys, although ospreys obviously tend to take fish that are swimming in the water column, right, as opposed to picking things off the bottom. So I'm not sure how many, but there's a lot of fish-eating birds out there beyond cormorants that are part of our Canadian identity and birds that people care about. So so it's something to certainly keep our eye on.
What would make
goldeneye too? I was going to say goldeneye, whistler duck. That's a game duck that people. I've eaten lots of them on that, and they would definitely be going after gobies. I wonder.
So why is it gobies? I mean, there's so many fish down there. Why are we now talking about gobies possibly transmitting botulism? Aren't there other fish that would too?
Yeah, partly their diet, again, really cueing in on mollusks, snails, other things that are again part of that sort of pathway. I really don't have a good answer for you. And I can do more homework for next time. You just threw this at me last minute. So I'll do more homework for next time, and maybe we can...
I would hang up if I were you. Right now, Stephen, I see you assholes. I'm out of here. That's it. Done.
Hey, listen, a buddy of mine called me the other day. He said he saw you on some newscast or something regarding goldfish. What was that all about?
Oh boy, yeah. The phone's been ringing off the hook lately about this pond in Ottawa. So there's a stormwater pond. It's small. It's man-made. It's part of our stormwater management systems. It's shallow, and somewhere along the line, somebody's decided to release their goldfish, and then somebody else their pet goldfish, and then somebody else decided to release their pet goldfish, and eventually there was a boy and a girl, and they found each other, and now we have thousands, if not tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of goldfish in this pond. The city became concerned because last spring they had 5,000 or 6,000 dead ones wash up on shore. Unclear why. Maybe it was winter kill. Maybe it was a disease outbreak. But they smell, 5,000 dead fish, even if they're, goldfish, they will smell, becomes a raccoon party, things you don't necessarily want in an urban area. And so the cities decided that they're going to go in and try and cull them this fall. So their plan is to go in with nets. The challenge is that netting is imperfect, and all you have to do is miss one boy, one girl, and they're back at it again. Right. These things really like to reproduce. They can pump out about 6,000 offspring every time they spawn. The females carry 6,000 eggs. So
are there no? There's obviously in a man-made pond. Are there no other predators in there that would eat them or anything?
Yeah, not fish-wise generally. Some urban ponds have largemouth bass in them. This one's pretty shallow, so I don't think there's any bass. There would be other small-bodied species like sticklebacks and so on, but most of them would be smaller than the goldfish. Mm-hmm. There's probably the odd snapping turtle that's pretty pleased with them, but not enough. Raccoons will go down there and fish, and probably the odd seagull has a bit of a feast. But in general, there's really not a whole lot to eat them. And again, they're just so fecund. They just pump out so many babies that pike or muskie would love it. Yeah. Although pike and muskie probably would not do well in the winter in those kinds of ponds. Right. They wouldn't make it.
You mentioned largemouth bass. I know for a fact in fact, I shouldn't say just largemouth, but most game fish, if given the opportunity to chow down on a goldfish, man, they're first in line. They've got their hand. We had an aquarium, the old aquarium at Barclays.
Oh, I remember it well, buddy.
We had a big 10,000 gallon aquarium that we had all sorts of game fish in it. And every once in a while, as a little treat, we would bring in some goldfish to feed them. Normally they'd be eating emerald shiners and anything else we get from bait companies. But every once in a while, we'd bring in a bag of goldfish. I got to tell you, they were lined up at the trough.
They did love them.
They were lined up at the trough. And predominantly largemouth, I noticed, for whatever reason. All of a sudden, they became, in this tank, largemouth were, in terms of speed and aggression at feeding time, largemouth were the least aggressive of the bunch, walleye being at the top of the food chain there. But when we put goldfish in, that all changed. And whether it was the color or the profile, whatever it was, we had this one big boy. He was pushing between 5 and 6. And this guy would have his mouth full of goldfish. He'd bully everybody away. Remember the tails would be sticking out here on his gill plates. He could not possibly put any more into him, and he'd still be smacking goldfish just for the hell of it.
Yeah.
But they loved them.
And the best part, Stephen, is when Brutus or whatever his name was it Brutus? Yeah. And all the bass were doing this. The scales were like, it's like a snow globe. It was just all these little golden, orange scales going down to the bottom of the lake. It's just mayhem in there.
I can hear people now that might not agree with that. Saying, you guys are cruel.
Yeah. Well, speaking of which, going back to your goldfish story, is there a lot of pushback from the community and hey, they want to kill all these goldfish? There's
certainly concern among some that that's a lot of animals to kill, but at the same time, it's not good for biodiversity. And if you care about wildlife, if you care about our natural systems, we really need to go beyond netting them, and we need to wipe them out. That means using a pesticide, a pesticide that targets fish. The problem is that it's not going to be goldfish specific, so it will kill everything else in the pond. And it takes time. You do need to reach out and have some community meetings, allow people to ask questions. Is this, if my kid frolics in the pond afterwards, is this going to be problematic for their health? Is this going to end up in our groundwater? So you just have to have some conversations. The stuff is safe, but still have to give the community an opportunity to weigh in. But I think long term, that's the solution. Going and spending tax dollars to try to net out goldfish year after year after year, that's not an effective use of resources.
And I'm assuming that's why you have been brought in on this, just to bring in the scientific end of it to light.
Yeah, I'm just sort of a so-called fish expert, and the local media sources have just been leaning on folks like me that can speak candidly about it. The city is, the local city councilors had stuff to say about it. But what's fascinating to me is even the New York Times has jumped in on this. I was interviewed by the New York Times last week, and when I got the initial email from the reporter, I scratched my head because I was like, why would this be of interest to the New York Times? And then I started thinking, this is in a part of Ottawa called Central Park. I wonder if they're just confused and they've got it wrong. They think that, and nope, they were fully aware that this was a pond in Ottawa, and that this was worthy of coverage in the New York Times.
They probably have a pond like that in their own Central Park. I bet you they have a goldfish pond.
I'm sure
they're everywhere. These ponds are everywhere. We've got 4 or 5 of them within a couple of miles.
Sure, you can see them.
Every place they build like a big development, like a shopping center or a residential thing, they have
one right up there on Harmony.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
They put one of these ponds in. So my next question to you is, I'm sure this is not unique. I'm sure that most of these man-made storm drain ponds have got goldfish and other critters that maybe well-intentioned people, wanting to release their pet goldfish as opposed to killing it like they should, would just wander over and drop them in that pond. It's got to be happening everywhere.
Oh, yeah. It is. And that's why there's value in me going on those media outlets and talking about it, because the real message is, do not release your goldfish in the wild. Rehome it. Find somebody else that'll take it back to the pet store, or euthanize it. Whack it on the back of the head.
By the way, that's not that easy to do. And I'll tell you why, because I recently got caught up in this situation. There was a pet that I needed to relocate, and I didn't have the heart to do what I should have done. And so I started researching and making phone calls and emails to various shelters and pet shops, and that, you know what? You cannot get rid of these unwanted animals. To me, it's simple. Go to a pet shop, give it to him for nothing, and he's going to sell it and make some money. It's a no-brainer.
Exactly.
But they don't, because they don't know where it came from. They don't know what it's bringing in. Then they're going to sell it to somebody, and if it's you know what I mean?
We had an issue. Remember the big catfish?
Oh, we couldn't.
So
couldn't
we got a hold of, what's the place in Toronto there that we got?
The zoo. Metro Zoo. I called the zoo.
No, not the zoo. The one with all those fish. You know that one.
The Ripley's.
The Ripley's.
Yeah, the Ripley's.
Yeah. Hey, we have a beauty of I think it's a blue catfish. It's pushing 80 pounds. It would show everybody. We can't take that.
They wouldn't take it.
We don't want that, sir. We're giving it to you. We can't take that, sir.
And this was a fish that would have been, I think, a showstopper for them, because they had nothing even close to this thing, but they wouldn't take it.
They wouldn't take it.
Metro Zoo said they couldn't take it because they didn't have a facility for it.
Yeah. But, hey, but remember his story about Brutus, the bass eating the goldfish? We put in 2 5-pound smallies into that tank, and that big boy grabbed them both and killed them.
Killed them both.
Killed them, shook his head and killed them both.
In about 15 minutes.
Yeah, it was
boom.
crazy, and you could hear it. It was a big thump when he grabbed it. You could just, oh my God, the whole aquarium shook.
So then, our thought, because we got close to this fish, this big catfish. We had him for a long time, and he was very personable, and, all that. He was a character. Like we named him, like all that. So Bubba was his name. And so it's pretty hard to just do the obvious, right? For us, it was very hard. So we even thought, do we take the risk? Do we put him back anywhere, in any environment that he would normally be living in? Bay of Quinte, as an example, right? And we started talking about it, and we started, doing a bit of research and looking into. I had an M&R buddy that I could confide in, and I asked him, and you know what? We couldn't.
Nope.
We just could not take the chance that this thing.
We couldn't do it legally, anyways.
We couldn't do it legally, but the fear of God was put into us, because a fish of this size, it wouldn't take long, even in a place like the Bay of Quinte, for God's sakes. It wouldn't take them long to upset the apple cart, just because of the sheer size of this monstrosity.
Yeah.
So we ended up, giving him a nice send-off and funeral and the whole bit.
Another thing, Stephen, I'm sure you guys have looked into this, but if not, because this goldfish issue, going back to Ottawa there, it reminds me, and I'm sure Ange, of the grass carp issue we're having going on right now, is the invasive species. So if you could get maybe the Invasive Species Centre in there on your talks, telling everybody, look, this is what's happening with grass carp. Look at the silver carp down in the U.S., blah, blah, blah. Well, yeah, these little guys aren't near the fish but I'll tell you, it's the same idea. If that pond ever blew open, a big flood or something like that, then all of a sudden all those hundreds of thousands of goldfish get into the Rideau Canal or something. It's game over then. You know what I mean? So.
Yep. Yeah, and that's the only reason. These things goldfish are thick in Hamilton Harbor, as you know. Right. There's not a whole lot you can do about it, because it's such a big open system. This is at least a reasonably confined system. But probably an acre at most of surface area. So it is doable to really nuke it with the piscicide. There's lots of other places where once they're there, it's game over. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah, you can't do that in Hamilton.
Safe to say, if it was left entirely up to science, there would be no question as to what you guys would be doing with that pond.
Yeah. For that one, assuming you'd need to do a quick assessment to make sure there aren't any rare species in there. I'm assuming there are not. Just again, it was a created pond, so probably not the case. And you wipe it out, and then you can repopulate it with a couple netfuls of native baitfish species that would do just fine in there. Again, sticklebacks and shiners and so on, that would be plenty happy making a life of it, providing fish for the birds that come and hang out and the turtles that live there. And it's probably what needs to be done.
But the other problem, though, boys, is that you're not going to stop them from doing it again. People are going to do it again. Yep. I guarantee you, unless you're fenced it off and you say there's no trespassing, and even then people will sneak in.
Is there a fine for that? In other words, if I dumped, Walter, my pet goldfish, into that pond and somebody saw me do it, could they report it and could I be fined?
Yes. Yep. It's no different than you taking muskie from one water body, transporting it and releasing it into another without a permit. So if you happen to get a transport permit and a release permit from the Ministry of Natural Resources, you can do that. There is 0% chance that they would issue such permits for goldfish. So yeah, so technically illegal, but again, I bet there's been zero charges over time, of a conservation officer stumbling into somebody, releasing, I don't know. What's the name of a goldfish? I keep going to Fido. That's a dog name. I don't know. What's it?
Oscar? Isn't it Oscar one, maybe?
Sure. Oscar? Okay, Oscar the goldfish.
Sure.
Okay.
I don't know. Goldie.
Well, but
Goldie.
you know what? We're laughing about it, but
it's a serious problem.
Why would it be any different than transporting a game fish from one body of water to another, which you will get fined for if you're caught? Why wouldn't we take the same approach to putting goldfish out in the wild?
That's right. Like Steven said, a pike or a muskie, a pike. That's devastation to another body of water when you put pike in there all of a sudden, right? Whatever you have that's there, or a couple pike. Oh boy, look out!
Maybe we need to bring. No, maybe I don't want to get him involved in this.
Some kind of a hitman. You're talking about some hitman, aren't you? Fishing hitman.
We do have the possibilities of bringing the minister back on, our minister back on, and talking to him about this.
Yeah, that's true.
Although he hasn't responded, Dean, he hasn't responded to our challenge about the treble hook thing, has he?
He said he was on it, but I haven't heard any updates.
Yeah, maybe we should start poking at him a little bit.
We'll give him a few more subjects. We'll give him a couple more. The goldfish will be another one. We'll give him about 3 to work with, and then he'll come on probably. He needs some.
In the meantime, with goldfish, it's about education and knowledge. And I'd like to see pet stores do a better job. If you're selling this thing, make sure that people are willing to, they understand the commitment involved. The one thing with goldfish is we use them as kids' pets because they're almost bulletproof. You can feed them. You can overfeed them, you can underfeed them, you can let them, wallow in their own feces, not change the water for 2 weeks, and the things are still alive and reasonably content. That is why when they get released into stormwater ponds, they do so well. And that's why most of those stormwater ponds do not have game fish in them. So
I have the answer.
I do too.
It just dawned on me.
On me too.
It's so clear.
Does it start with T?
I don't know, but growing up, the issue was...
Mine's different, I think.
Growing up, the issue was bottles and cans, mostly beer. And people would just throw them everywhere. They would just... And then we started putting a bounty on them by saying, hey, you know what? You can save all those beer bottles, and then at the end of the week, bring them into the beer store, and they'll actually pay you for them.
That's right.
Okay?
Not bad.
Why couldn't we put the onus on people who sell things like fish to offer their customers...
Buy 'em back for 10 cents.
Hey, listen, if you ever want to get rid of the... Unlike what I just told you where, I'm trying to get rid of a creature and they say, no way. Maybe we should change the system a little bit, almost like, returnable bottles. Maybe there is an opportunity for us to say, hey, you're tired of the pet. We understand it's an issue. Bring it back here. Don't do anything else with it. We'll look after it.
Yep.
And
I like that creative thing. Yep.
No, but and pay them a nominal amount. Wouldn't take much, as long as and then the industry decides what they're doing with these returned animals. If they don't want to resell them, which is fine, understandable, then we figure out what to do with it.
I like that.
I think that
drop off your beers, cases of beer, and then go drop off your goldfish.
Exactly.
In one run on a Sunday afternoon. Damn, I like that. My thought was, why don't we make them triploids?
Yeah.
And they can't spawn.
Yes.
And they can't sell a spawning reproductive goldfish. It has to be a triploid.
How tough is that, Stephen?
It's not tough, but again, you got to get it right, because it only takes a few that you screwed up on, and all of a sudden they're off and running. Making triploid fish is not difficult these days, and in fact, you can do it with temperature at the right phase of reproduction, of egg development and fertilization. You hit them with cold temps right at the exact, this special time. Again, this is not what I do, but there are aquaculturists that know how to do that. So it's reasonably easy to do. Rethinking about some more regulations in the pet trade, right. Making it bulletproof. So worst case scenario, or the goldfish truck overturns, on the highway, and they all end up in the Credit River. Well, It doesn't matter, because once they're fished out, or once they die, they're gone. None of them can reproduce. Right. So that is, fortunately, most of the grass carp that have been found in the Great Lakes so far have been triploids. Yes. But that's not the case with the silver carp or big head carp that are sadly headed our way.
Right.
I think we might have just hit this right on the head. You know that?
But a combined effort.
A combined effort. We'll make them triploids, and then just to ensure that this is not going to get away on us, we will offer them a return, I don't know, like 5 cents.
Recycle.
5 cents. Yeah. Bring your goldfish back. We'll give you a nickel.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's wonderful. Done. My job is done.
What'll win? A tree hugger, or will they be a cheap bastard? Which will be the two? Which will be one of the two? I think they're going to still hug the tree.
If only we're that easy, huh, Stephen?
Oh, God.
Yep.
This episode is brought to you by Angler's Leaderboard and its photo measure feature. Angler's Leaderboard makes every catch count by integrating seamlessly with their patent-pending AI-enabled fish measurement board. Now you can automatically measure catch length and detect species in seconds just by using your smartphone camera. It's fast, accurate, and reduces handling. So now you can release healthier fish and keep fishing for the big ones. Learn more at anglersleaderboard.com.
We interrupt this program to bring you the much-anticipated bonus code for the latest Fishing Canada giveaways. This week's code is FISHERY. That's fishery, all capital letters, FISHERY. For those who haven't entered yet, what the heck are you waiting for? Head on over to fishingcanada.com while you listen to the rest of this episode. Click contests and sign up for all the latest Fishing Canada giveaways. And now, back to the show. What else you been up to, buddy? It's the end of the open water season pretty soon.
Don't say that.
Well, it is, unfortunately. How's your year been?
Yeah, it's been pretty good. Last 9 weeks have been airplane time. In 9 weeks, 9 trips. Sadly, nothing fun in terms of fish squeezing, but all fish meetings, all sorts of topics, from sea lice to waterway management in Germany to lamprey control in the Great Lakes, kind of all over the place, all sorts of topics. So it's been fun.
I heard from a not so reliable source, so I want to preface this in advance.
I love it. You're hiring hitman, and now you got this guy on the. I want to know all these people after this podcast.
Any truth to? Is there any problem with our populations of speckled trout, brook trout, in terms of reproduction? Have you heard anything at all?
No way.
Now, I'm thinking North America only, because that's where my source is from. Anything there at all?
Yeah, brook trout are among the most sensitive fish species that we have in freshwater today, because they need cold water and they need groundwater. And when I say cold water, I mean really cold water. So right before this call, I was on a grad student committee meeting online, and 15 degrees, 14 degrees Celsius, that's sort of like where things start to go poorly for them. And that means the only places that have temperatures these days are really pristine sites where you've got a lot of groundwater inputs, a lot of shade, not just in the area of a stream, but right up to the headwaters. You basically need to protect a stream from headwaters all the way down to be able to have brook trout survive. There used to be, back in the day when I was a summer student at the Grand River Conservation Authority, we'd spend time in Guelph, Cambridge, Brantford area doing fisheries assessments in small streams looking for brook trout. And even back then, they were on the edge. My guess is if we went to revisit many of those populations, they'd be extirpated now. So it really, climate change and water taking from groundwater, it's really just, and they're just so sensitive to habitat degradation. So if there's one species in our neck of the woods that I'm really concerned about, it's definitely brook trout. Wow. Climate change is going to do horrible things for brook trout. And I'm not talking about, waiting 200 years for the temperature to be, ridiculous. Yeah. It's just a degree or two. They're literally on death's doorstep. It's
that's what I heard. I said, you got to be kidding me. No. And this guy's in the timber industry.
Right.
And so obviously, you mentioned shade. Obviously, the timber industry would be responsible for a lot of that loss of shade. And he told me that he had been talking to some people in the scientific community, and there is a big microscope right now on brook trout spawning.
Damn.
So,
Stephen, are brook trout, though, in the perfect environment, and brown trout, I'm thinking too, but are they not one of the toughest fish around as long as everything is right? Are they not like the ultimate predator, and they can hack, maybe a fighting on a rod and reel and release no problem as long as everything is perfect?
Yeah, when things are good, brook trout are pretty robust. And in fact, out west where they've been introduced, so, around here, it was back in the day, it was brook trout, Atlantic salmon, lake trout, right? Mm-hmm. And then if you headed out west, it was, cutties and
bull trout.
Rainbows and so on. Brown trout are from over in Europe.
Right.
So we brought them in. So but brook trout have been widely introduced, for example, in the mountain parks in Alberta. So if you think about Banff and Banff, for example, they spend a lot of money each year trying to get the brook trout out
because they're out competing some of the native things like the bull trout. Really?
Wow.
So when you say introduced, then this was not introduced legally. Somehow they've been brought into those watersheds?
Yeah, back in the day, our governments did a pretty good job of spreading non-native species around before they knew better. So basically, they would just throw fish on trains, and every time they passed a river, the train would stop and they'd dump some in and they'd go on to the next river and keep doing that. And there's lots of examples. That's how we got smallmouth bass throughout much of northern Ontario, for example. Again, it's creating opportunities. Hey, well, we think their brook trout would do well here, so we'll put them there. Now we're realizing that there's value in there's value in biodiversity. We're trying to create fishing opportunities, and we definitely want to celebrate that. But we also want to have some systems that are as pristine as possible and work towards those restored fisheries. That's why there's so much effort by groups like the Ontario Federation of Anglers and Hunters to restore Atlantic salmon to Lake Ontario. Maybe there's a future where it won't be rainbows and browns and Chinook that we're landing. We're landing Atlantic's hand over fist. There's a lot of work to do to get there.
Yeah. Okay. You just opened up a can of worms here on this one, though.
I didn't want to open it.
I have to. I must, because I'm all about being sensitive to the introduction of non-native species in certain areas. However, at some point, we have to all, first of all, buy into the fact that there is a shift in our climate. Whether you want to call it climate change, whatever you want to call it, temperatures are changing. Temperatures are probably one of the most important things in a fish's life. So just bear with me on this, okay?
Yep.
Don't hang me right off the bat. Just give me a chance before you pull that lever. Would it not be prudent? Would it not be prudent of us to say, okay, all right, we're not going to be able to change that 2 degrees, 3 degrees shift in temperatures in this body of water.
Given. That's a given.
We're not going to change it. Certainly not in our lifetime.
You'll change it warmer. You won't be able to change it colder.
So, do we really need to be spending all of our energy and resources and money on trying to reclaim that body of water for a species that was there, say, 100 years ago? Or would we be better taking all of those resources and trying to build a fishery in that body of water that will work and will be self-sustaining and grow and prosper and offer opportunities to anglers to enjoy? At some point, somebody has to be the voice of reason here and say, okay, guys, time out. That ain't going to work. We can't continue throwing millions of dollars into that body of water or that area or that region with that species.
You just described the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah, well, maybe that's where it's coming from, okay?
It's got to be. All that money going in there, are they ever going to win a Stanley Cup, damn it? You know?
No, but you know what I mean, Stephen?
Yeah, absolutely. I know so what you mean that I'm actually co-organizing a workshop on that very topic.
Nice.
With some colleagues in the U.S. In April, we're meeting at a University of Nevada center located on the shores of Lake Tahoe. And we're going to be tackling that very question. Really thinking about the future of what recreational fisheries management looks like in North America, because it is going to be different. And we can, be finding that balance between where does it make sense to try to protect and conserve what we have versus realizing that this is already a changed system or one that will be changed in such ways that it will never support what was there. So how do we re-engineer, manage those systems? So it's really, we have to rethink how we manage our fisheries. And we're not ready for that at all. We are not prepared. So the conversations that we plan on having, this is just the start. We're bringing 20 people together, a couple fish chiefs, a couple scientists, a couple folks from, American Sport Fishing Association, really big picture thinking that will start a conversation. And at some point, that will grow to the point where hopefully there's an association of fish and wildlife agencies that are Canadian organized, like MNR is part of that and so on. And we hope to see that those groups will pick up this idea and really start working forward. But they're kind of societal decisions too, right? It shouldn't be a fishery manager's decision as to what our future looks like. It's our collective decision. And so time to start those conversations now.
Excellent.
It's got to. Because to me, it's just ridiculous.
If you keep wasting money and it ain't working, you're just wasting money. Right?
I'm all for trying, but there's got to be a period of time.
Point, yeah.
Sometimes you say, hey, we tried. Good work.
Right.
Nice try.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Yeah.
And you mentioned one of those species just a few minutes ago, so that's the one that's near and dear to my heart. I would love nothing more, and I mean this as sincerely, and for those of you listening to this or watching this podcast, you know my opinion on this already, that I've been spewing for the last 25 years. I'm all for fishing things like Atlantic salmon. It would be wonderful. It would be outstanding to have a tremendous Atlantic salmon fishery, whether it's here at home or where they're originally native on the East Coast. But the truth of the matter is we have screwed this planet up to the point where we have to be realistic. It ain't going to happen.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or it ain't going to happen without some genetic engineering or other, where some selective breeding to, can we create basically, expedite natural selection.
Is that possible, Stephen? Is it possible for us to take a cold water fish and play around with it in the lab to the point where it doesn't need that? We mentioned speckled trout, how sensitive they are to that 1 or 2 degrees. Is it possible to build a genetically different speckled trout that has all the same attributes and all the wonderful things that speckled trout means to us? Is it possible to reproduce that animal that can tolerate warmer water?
We're already doing it. So, for example, groups like the Freshwater Fisheries Society of British Columbia, is they stock millions of rainbow trout each year. And stocking rainbow trout into waters, if they turn around and die 2 hours later, is not doesn't contribute to their mission in any way. So they've done a lot of work with geneticists at UBC and other institutions out there, trying to figure out which genes are important, which ones can be manipulated. But we can also take advantage of natural genetic variation. So, for example, we have brook trout down in the Carolinas. So those brook trout are more used to warm temperatures than a brook trout from, the Madawaska Highlands. So does it make sense to do something called assisted migration? That's where you take animals, in this case fish, that were from the southern edge of their range and move them to the north. The idea that they will fare better because they're used to warmer temperatures than our northern fish that are used to cold temperatures, but it's getting warmer. So those are other things we can do. We can move around fish. But again, I want to be clear, this isn't, Johnny Appleseed shouldn't be doing this. This is, thoughtful, government, led initiatives after careful study to make sure that we've got it right. But those opportunities do exist.
That's cool.
Honestly,
that's cool.
You can look at me and say, honestly, you think that there's a chance that we can push stuff like that through, knowing the bureaucracy that you would have to work with to get it done? You honestly believe that's viable?
Again, depends on the fishery, the system, and so on. And it may mean putting checks in place. Maybe it means those fish also become triploid, so they're not reproducing with, so there are, there's multiple layers there. And then even when it comes to genetics, there's lots of things. There's a whole spectrum of things we can do. Every time a fish, the MNR is dealing with fish and hatcheries, they're thinking about genetics. They're making decisions about who spawns with who. Which males with which females from which populations, where are they going, which are the most logical genes or appropriate genes to be releasing into that system. So, we're already making strategic decisions. That's different than genetic engineering per se. But yeah, there's all sorts of fancy technology coming down the line that will further revolutionize fisheries management. And some of it's a little scary, but we'll figure it out.
Think of the fishery we could have if we, considered our efforts on improving the fish that can survive in what we have created, the environment we've created, as opposed to taking our efforts and trying to fight and force that off. The fish that are doing well, I'll use smallmouth bass as a great example. I mean, obviously that's a fish that from a sport fisherman's standpoint, I think one of the greatest sport fish we've got. Who does not want to go out and tackle 5 and 6 pound smallmouth bass and catch them at will?
No kidding.
I don't think any angler on the planet would say no to that. Would it not? I mean, can you see a world where we're actually trying to build that fishery, take the time and effort and the scientists and the knowledge and try and build that fishery up,
right,
as opposed to the time that we're using trying to keep something going that is not sustainable? There's no future in it. I know it sounds like we're quitting. It sounds like we're
I know. And there's some places we probably need to quit, and there's other places where we need to double down, right? But you can't double down everywhere and fight a losing battle. And so, it's figuring out what, when, where, and again, important, difficult, but important conversations.
I love this subject. I could go on and on and on.
It's good. It's really, really, really good.
What are you going to be doing from here on in as winter approaches? What do you guys do? What does the scientific community do that spends their time on the water doing practical research? What do you do in the wintertime aside from going to symposiums and lectures and all that?
We write. So the data that we collected in the spring and the summer, early fall, we now are analyzing. Then we write. We also have to write grants to get money.
It's the same thing
as us.
Honestly, it is. Hey?
Writing grants to feed the beast. All this stuff costs money.
Do you not study anything under the ice, Stephen? Do you not poke holes? do that kind of stuff?
This year, we're doing a little bit of turtle stuff, just with snapping turtles here in the Jock River in Ottawa. We are tracking fish under the ice. We've got lots of places where we've got telemetry receivers out. But fortunately, in those cases, I just sit in front of the fireplace and drink wine, and the data sort of collect themselves.
That's a job.
And we go and
right
retrieve the receivers in the spring and see what we got. So,
That's awesome.
so yeah, I'm collecting data. Just now I collected more data. It's fantastic.
That's
So, yeah.
awesome.
That's a fascinating subject as well. We recently spent some time on the East Coast chasing down bluefin tuna, and we learned a lot about their tagging programs and the research that they're doing with that animal. And that whole part, the telemetry is just, to me, it's fascinating how they can collect all that information, that data from one little tag that's put into a body of a fish. And it's fantastic.
I'll tell you something, boys, that I want to bring up to both you guys that I was surprised, as Angela knows. I was out on the weekend, Stephen, in the boat still, but the lake was half frozen and just enough of a hole to get a boat in and fish around. Couldn't even get on a plane. Now, normally, this area I was fishing,
How far
luckily,
north? How far north are we talking?
it's an hour and a half, 2 hours north of here.
And frozen.
So, pretty much.
Wow.
Yeah, almost frozen, yeah.
Wow.
And I'll try to make this quick, but it's really interesting. There's a hump in this area that was open that I wanted to fish because last year at this time in open water, we did great on smallmouth bass with the incidental muskie and an incidental walleye here and there. Got there and I thought, I hope that hump's open because the edge of the ice was right at the hump. And I was like, oh no. So I actually broke some ice with the boat and it broke it up. And then we looked around. There was hardly anything in the open water. So I'm using live scope, very much using live scope for this because I'm looking for fish now. Got back, the hump was open up and beautiful. Here we go. There's weeds on the hump. There's rocks on the hump. Green weeds, beautiful. Like still, it comes up to about 5 or 6 feet, goes down to about 15 feet. Looking all around, I'm scoping all over that hump, all around the whole thing, nothing. I couldn't see a fish. And I said, this is crazy. Last year
How much time did you invest doing that?
A lot. A lot. You know me.
Okay.
A lot of time.
Yeah,
I'm like Steven. I'm Steven on the job there. So then I says, okay, piss on this. Went over to the ice, the edge of the ice, started scanning under the ice. Every friggin' smallmouth bass in the area was under the ice.
How close to the ice?
20 to 50 feet back. From the edge.
From the edge, around the hump.
Around the hump. There was one time, there was one group of fish on the hump. They were all little ones. You could tell, smallmouth, 12 inches, whatever they were. I couldn't tell that. All the big girls and big boys were all under that ice no matter when. I caught one. I literally drove my boat into the ice, made a pot opening, brought back, waited for the ice to get out of there. I cast into that hole, so there's 2 edges there, and I got a 4-pound smallmouth in there, but I couldn't get anything else. And they all stayed under that ice. It was freaky.
What the hell are they doing, Steve?
So let me say, because I've seen this on largemouth as well.
Okay.
Now, they are under the protection of that ice as an overhead cover. They're using that as overhead cover. For sure, because the weather was perfect. It was overcast. It was like you should be everywhere around this hump, killing everything. There wasn't a perch around that hump either. There was nothing. It was almost dead zone around that whole open water area. No bait balls or anything. Only life I could see was tucked under that ice, and they're just waiting.
Did you see bait under there too?
I don't remember seeing bait, but normally there's perch everywhere around this. So I got a feeling the perch were just somewhere else, under the ice somewhere else.
I wonder if the perch and other things were just like right under the ice, a foot under, just
it's funny
hanging
you say
out
that,
up there.
because I could see stuff on the live scope and I had no idea what that was under the ice. So maybe he's right on that. Yeah. But it was freaky, man. They loved smallmouth too, not the ones that normally largemouth like that overhead stuff. These smallies didn't give a shit about open water, and they would not venture out. If I dropped anything on the edge, they just stay there. It's almost like they were waiting. And this hump that we were fishing, once it ice is over, the smallies are all over it again. We did that last year. We caught smallmouth when we were fishing for walleye, and smallies were
and yet in open water situations, those smallmouth would be all
everywhere around there.
Doc, what do you think?
Yeah, I think those fish are. I think the smallies are hanging out under that cover because that's where the food is, and I think everything's resorting too, right? It's like when ice cover comes, it's a big change, and they're just sort of resorting themselves. For me, the biggest question is, how do you fish them?
Exactly.
And what I'm thinking of, I bet you no longer have the banjo minnow in your collection. Do you remember how that thing worked?
Yeah.
It went the opposite direction, and it would just sort of like scoot out.
Yeah.
Toss it at the edge and let it go
That's
under.
so true.
See,
However,
you just rigged up improperly.
There was a couple of holes in the ice that I pitched my jig to, and I still literally my line's going down like this, straight up and down. Nothing. They wouldn't even touch that sort of thing. So it was. I don't know.
Obviously, it's food driven, as you just said, and
gotta be.
And whatever the baseline food source would have been on that hump normally.
I gotta say perch.
No, I'm saying whatever it is that would attract perch to that area.
Right.
Whatever that base is, zooplankton or some kind of microorganism that they would normally feed on, something. I see. I don't buy the cover thing from either one of you guys. I'll be honest with you. It's my own personal opinion. Something has driven that basic food form off of that hump.
The only thing that freaks me out, I agree with you there. But the only thing that freaks me out is the ones that were in 20 and 10 feet in. They could see my stuff going down, and they didn't. They wouldn't move. They wouldn't. No, they were moving. They were moving all over. They were swimming all over the place. You know what LiveScope shows you. Yeah. They were swimming. There'd be a group there. And they just swim around there under the ice. They swim around there under the ice. And I'd cast over the edge, and I'd think, come on, they're going to get one now. And they wouldn't even look. Yeah. And I threw a lot of stuff.
This is a really hard time to fish, though, for things like bass because of the temperature. These are the coldest temperatures they've experienced, and it takes a while for their bodies to get used to those temperatures before their enzymes adjust, which allows them to move more easily, to digest more easily. So fish get more active and easier to catch the further on the winter goes because they just get more and more used to it being cold, and they just eventually are able to move more. So for me, this is I do really poorly at this time of year with fishing, for bass at least, because they're just hammered by those temperatures. They're at probably the lowest activity period of the year or close to it. I would say the next month or so, and then it starts to increase. Okay. It's really low, but when it's low and their activity increases 3 or 4 times, it's it's substantial. So yeah.
Wow, and
that was so cool.
Those are great days, eh? I mean, what you just described, that's a laboratory for an angler, right?
Yeah,
because you've got nothing but time to try and figure out
exactly
what's going on,
and to be able to tell. Like I know you've fished your whole life, Stephen's. Maybe you've known that they hang under the ice or not, but Stephen to kind of say, "Wow, really?" We're all sitting here saying, "Holy shit, that is so cool." It's just wild. It's
wild.
Yeah, it was really neat. It was very frustrating. I will say that. And that one smallmouth I did catch, it felt like a trophy of a lifetime after that.
How many hours to catch that one fish?
We put in 2 days of fishing in this little spot, but they're not full days, right? You get out at 10 o'clock. This time of year, you're not going to be out there at 7 in the morning. It's still black at 7.
I wonder under low light, like early in the day, I wonder if that would have been different.
We stayed till late in the day, second day.
And that didn't change.
No walleye, nothing came out that area. Like I said,
no camera in tow, no camera boat.
Hell no, buddy. Hell no. It's a lot of wasted money. Yeah, but that like last year, the week before this, when there was no ice, we smashed the smallmouth every day. Yeah. Smashed them. 20 pounds, 19 pounds, 18 pounds, 3 days in a row. So I think that ice is really, like Stephen said, it screws them up. And I can guarantee, I think, anyway, Stephen, you can verify this. The water temperature is no different where I'm sitting than where the smallmouth sitting on the ice. I think it's all pretty much the same now, right? Because you're fishing right beside the ice. Yeah. So it's got to be these like ice cubes in your drink. It just brings the temperature way down sort of thing. So it was neat. It was frustrating.
So 2 days?
Very cool. 2 days, yeah. But looking around, we went around everywhere else.
What's the cost of that fish? We should do the analysis on that just to see how crazy anglers can be.
Yeah.
What did it cost to catch that one fish, to get that one rush?
Yeah. We got 3 muskies and a walleye. So, I mean, we got some other fish. But that smallmouth, which is what I was intending on trying to catch, because closing day is this weekend coming up or something like that. But, it was a lot of time. It cost me... It put me in the positive because I learned more. Like, we always try to learn more as much as we can. So I may not have learned how to catch them, but I learned about them. And I know if that lake semi-freezes up again, I'm not going. That'd save me a trip next year.
I heard somewhere, I can't remember where, but I heard that under these cold water conditions, that your live scope actually gives you a cleaner picture. Did you notice that at all?
I didn't notice it. No.
No, eh?
No, it was
Somebody told me.
I mean,
that
I'm
they
only
found-
in 15 feet, right? I'm still less than 20 feet of water. It was still a nice crisp, and I pumped the gain up pretty good on it too. This, there, and the other.
So you didn't notice, hey, this
No.
picture's a little cleaner than normal?
No, but it might be because the water looks cleaner, right? The water has got a
That's-
lot less zooplankton and all that
Exactly.
shit throughout it.
And that's what this
So,
I read an
makes
article
sense.
about it, that there's less in the water to distribute that signal,
Right. See,
and therefore
yeah.
it focuses more on that entity,
Yeah,
that
you
fish.
Know what? You know
So,
what? That's interesting. I like that.
Anyways, Stephen, we've gone into overtime.
Hey, one of the things I want to talk about next time or at some point is whether you want to call them coarse fish, rough fish, non-game fish. Let's dig into that. Let's talk about our drum, our buffalo, our gar, our bowfin, red horse. That sound fun?
Yes.
Oh my
I love
God!
it.
Write
Love
that
it.
down, Dino. You got that? All
Dino's
right.
got it.
That'll be the next subject. Dr. Cooke, thank you so much for joining us, my friend. Always a
Hey.
pleasure.
Thank you.
All right.
Tight lines.
See you, Stephen.
Yeah.
Wow. That was
good.
a
That's-
fascinating episode.
That was good.
That is
Lot
a
of
lot
good
of
goby
good
talk.
shit there as far as I'm concerned. Want to thank Dr. Stephen Cooke
As usual.
for making this possible
Fish
as
talk with
usual.
the doc.
Always a pleasure. That or it. I think we pretty much, we didn't even get into everything we needed to talk to him about that you wrote down here, Dean. We'll get that hopefully
That
next
could be
time.
next time too.
That segment, by the way, in case you were wondering, brought to you by J&B Cycle and Marine, headquarters for your next fishing boat motor trailer package. Don't forget them, our good friends and supporter of this show. You know, we don't mention that enough. Silver Wax being one of them, and Garmin, like all the companies that are associated with this program. I don't think we mention enough that we would dearly love for the listening audience to give them their support, give them their love, because without them, I can guarantee you we would not be here.
Absolutely.
Is that a fair assessment?
Absolutely.
Much like the question earlier on in this program about, how do we pick locations to shoot the show each year for the Fishing Canada show? It takes support to do what we do. So
Absolutely.
we really appreciate it if you folks would, if you're going to buy products that any of our sponsors make, please check them out first.
Mm-hmm.
We wouldn't be with them if they weren't the best at what they do. So if that's an endorsement, then there, we just gave it.
You did a good one right there, kid.
All right, that are it. We got to run on behalf of the entire team, albeit reduced, short little team. Peter Bowman, Dean Taylor, I'm Angelo Biola. We'll catch you next time, folks. Take care. This episode of Outdoor Journal Radio is brought to you in part by the Invasive Species Centre, protecting Canada's land and water from invasive species. Freedom Cruise Canada, rent the boat, own the memories. JMB Cycle and Marine, your home for all things power sports, boats, and equipment. And Silver Wax, absolute care for everything you drive.